Hi, good afternoon, students. Well, we'll be continuing with the first chapter itself, right? I think in the last class we have studied what is manure, what is fertilizer, and types of manure, and then difference between manure and fertilizer. So now we'll be seeing the advantages or disadvantages of fertilizers. Yes, advantages it is seen in the difference itself. So now we'll be seeing disadvantages. Whenever there are any substances, it will be having advantages as well as disadvantages. So first we'll be seeing the disadvantages of fertilizer. Disadvantage of fertilizer. What are the disadvantages of fertilizer? Yes, first thing, it is going to reduce soil fertility. What this fertilizer is doing, if it is used in excess amount, it is going to reduce soil fertility. And what it will do apart from that, if it is used regularly, the soil fertility is going to be reduced. Then what next? It is going to pollute water and soil pollution. So if used regularly, what this fertilizer is doing? It is reducing the fertility of the soil, and apart from reducing the fertility of the soil, it is causing water pollution as well as soil pollution. So how nutrients can be replenished in the soil? Alternative methods apart from using this manure and fertilizer. What are those alternative methods to replenish the nutrients in the soil? We'll see it now. Well, instead of using fertilizer, what are the methods to replenish the nutrients naturally? That we will discuss now. In that, we have first, it is about field follow, then crop rotation, then last one, it is mixed cropping. Mixed cropping. So these are the three methods which are used to replenish the nutrients in the soil apart from using fertilizers. So this is alternative method to avoid use of too much of fertilizer. In that, first we have field follow, crop rotation, and then mixed cropping. So we'll see it now one by one. We have seen the farmers leaving their farmland free during summers. They do not sow anything there. The farm is going to be completely empty during summers for at least 2 to 3 months. So what it is indicating? It indicates this field fallow. Minimum 1 month the land has to be not utilized for any of the agricultural activities. This shows that it is a pattern of field fallow. So what is the use of leaving that for one season free? Means that land is going to be not utilized for minimum one season. Why this they are going to do? It is so that let the soil regain the nutrients which have been necessary for it, right? So after leaving this empty, after leaving the field for empty for one season, the soil is going to soil is going to get nutrients so that they are necessary for its growth. we have crop rotation. So here in this method, in crop rotation method, types of crops will be grown in the same area. Types of crops will be grown in the same area. For example, leguminous plants also will be grown. This crop rotation method is used to gain nitrogen for crops. That is why along with one crop they are going to use leguminous plants. Along with one crop they are going to sow another leguminous plant, so that this leguminous is going to give the nitrogen and organic matter to the soil, so that soil doesn't lose its fertility. So this method is used for replenishment of nitrogen, right? So it is, this crop rotation is used for replenishment of nitrogen. How replenishment of nitrogen will be done is, they are going to grow leguminous plants along with the other crops. So when they sow this leguminous crops, these leguminous crops are usually what they are doing in their roots, in their root nodules, rhizobium bacteria will be there. It is going to take nitrogen from the environment and convert that into nitrogenous substances, so that the other plants and the soil can use it, right? Next we have mixed cropping. Mixed cropping. The word itself states that the crops are mixed. Different types of crops are grown, right? What is the use of this mixed cropping? Here, two or more crops are grown together in a same field. Why it is done? Because the waste of one plant will be useful for the another, and the another plant's waste will be useful for the other one. Even the crops also will be chosen. Crops also will be chosen so that one will get benefit. So whatever first crop is there, its waste has to be useful for second one, and the waste of second one has to be useful for first crop. The crops also will be chosen in this manner. So in this alternative to fertilizers for replenishment of nutrients, which are those? First one, what was that? It was field fallow, second crop rotation, third mixed cropping. I think these are clear. Next we have irrigation. Irrigation. So the most important factor in this farmer's life is irrigation, because irrigation is, it has to provide water. Water has to be supplied to crops time to time, so that crops are going to grow better and are going to give you high yield. So irrigation is the process of watering plants. The process of watering plants. Watering plants or crops in the field. So this is what is called as irrigation. When we look at the history, all these civilization, Indus civilization, Roman civilization, Egypt, right? They all were on the banks of the river, so that they started farming and they required water for that farming. So irrigation is essential for the farmers, and there are few areas where irrigation cannot be done because those areas are going to be purely dry. They all depend only upon rain. But irrigation, it is a process of watering crops in the field, time to time. In this irrigation, we have two methods of irrigation. One is traditional, traditional method, and the other one is modern method. Traditional method of irrigation is different, and modern method of irrigation is different. Well, in the first traditional method, we will be seeing how these traditional methods were used in the earlier days. In that, we have Dhekli, Rahat, Mode, and Chain Pump. These were the methods which were used for providing water to the crops in the field, right? Actually, the water which were in the canals, wells, the water which were available in canals and wells were used by these instruments, by these methods. Traditional methods have Dhekli, Rahat, Mode, and Chain Pump. I think the pictures of these are given in the textbook. Please go through that. So these methods, what they were doing, they were obtaining water from canals and wells. They were lifting water from canals and wells and they were supplying it to the crops in the field. So what were the advantages or disadvantages of this traditional method? It was cheaper. It was cheaper. It was not going to cost them anything, right? Because electricity is not at all used in these methods. So electricity was not used in these methods. That is why it got to be cheaper. As these methods were cheaper, the drawback was it was not so efficient. It was not so efficient. It was not so useful, right? It was not so useful, even though it was cheaper compared to the modern techniques of irrigation. These traditional methods were really cheap, but it had no huge impact on supplying water, like as we are going to do in the modern techniques. Then, apart from this, this water was distributed. Water was distributed by using all these methods with the help of a cattle labor or human labor. Either cattle has to be used or we human beings has to be used as a labor so that the water from the canals and wells can be supplied continuously. It took a man source, right? So it was cheaper, but it was not so useful like how the modern irrigation is. So this is about traditional irrigation. So now it is about modern irrigation. In day-to-day life, I think everyone has seen a pipe will be there to which sprinklers will be attached and the water will be sprinkling around a radius of depending upon the force of the water coming through that pipe, right? So these were more efficient. Modern irrigation was more efficient, means it was useful compared to traditional methods, because here water is equally distributed. Water is equally distributed to all parts of the plant, whereas in traditional method it was not so efficient, right? And there man or a cattle has to work for that. Here nothing, if you just switch on the button, everything works on its own. That is why this modern irrigation is considered to be more efficient, and the water is equally distributed to all parts of the field. Then generally this modern irrigation is aimed at conserving water, aimed at conserving water. Water has to be saved. We have to conserve even each and every drop, because during summers almost all parts of India feels scarcity of water. So what we have to do? We have to conserve each and every drop of water. For that, this modern irrigation is helpful. Whereas the traditional methods of irrigation, it was not so efficient. It required a labor may be of cattle or of human. And apart from that, there was no conservation of water in the traditional methods. While using by chain pump, motor, dhekli or rahat, the water used to be wasted. So this modern irrigation is felt useful for the present situation. So in this modern irrigation, one we have sprinkler system, and another one in this is drip irrigation. So one is sprinkler irrigation and the other one is drip irrigation. This sprinkler system is recommended for sandy soil. This sprinkler system is recommended for sandy soil and the land where it is uneven land, means which is not flat throughout, that is uneven land, where water is not sufficient or where water is not available. Uneven land, right? Sandy soil, types of soil: sandy soil, loamy soil, and another one what? It is another one is clay soil. So we have mainly three types of soil. One is sandy soil, loamy soil, and clay soil. Sandy soil, it will be porous, it will be having too much of space between it. That is why it is not going to hold water, right? You have studied these types of soil in class 7. So now next one is drip irrigation. What is that? Drip irrigation. The word itself states that drop by drop water is supplied to roots of the plants. So drop by drop water is supplied to all parts of the plant, that is through only roots. Drop by drop, water is supplied to roots of the plants. From roots, that water is going to all parts of the plant. That is different. So here, the main thing is we are supplying, now the water is supplied only to roots, drop by drop, so that there shall be no wastage of water. so that there shall be no wastage of water, because in modern irrigation it is said that it is aimed at conserving water. So in all these two methods, in sprinkler system as well as in drip irrigation, what has to be done? Water is not at all wasted. Sprinkler system, there will be a pipe to which those nozzles will be attached, and through that nozzle the water will be sprinkling away. The water will be sprinkling sprinkling away, right, in a circular manner. Then in this drip irrigation, the water is supplied drop by drop to the roots of the plants, so that there shall be no wastage of water. So next is advantages. Advantages of irrigation. So advantages of irrigation. First is it helps seeds to germinate. Helps seeds to germinate. So as we are watering, as we are supplying water, the seed is getting sprouted and starts growing. That is germinating. Crops are protected. Crops are protected from dry, hot air. Crops are going to be protected from hot, dry air, because as we supply water, it is going to be wet, so that it is not allowing the crops to dry and to get hot, humid air, right? So this is advantage of irrigation. Then last one is it is going to help in gaining nutrients absorption. Nutrients will be absorbed by the plant through its roots from the soil. Whatever the nutrients are present in the soil will be absorbed by the roots after watering. Is this clear? So these were few advantages of irrigation. One is it is going to help in seed germination, that is helps the seeds to germinate. Then second one, it is going to protect from hot and dry air or dry hot air. Then it is going to help in absorbing nutrients. So once water is supplied, the roots are going to absorb that water. So in that water, whatever the nutrients were there in the soil will be dissolved, and that will be obtained by the roots of the plants. So this is how the advantage of irrigation is. Then what are the disadvantages? What are the disadvantages of irrigation? The most first thing is waterlogging. You must be aware about the word called waterlogging. Waterlogging means there is too much of water being collected at one point, right? So in that, the plants are not going to get oxygen. That is why they are going to decay. So if waterlogging occurs, it is going to inhibit germination. So germination cannot be done further because it is completely packed. It is understood. If waterlogging takes place, then what it is doing? It is inhibiting the germination. It is stopping the process of germination due to too much of water. And second one is roots do not hold roots do not hold the crop upright. As there will be too much movement of water, what is going to happen is its root, the crop's roots is not going to be held upright because it starts moving, right? This is called upright. So the crop's roots are not going to hold it upright because there will be too much movement of water. This is the reason roots do not hold the crop upright. This is also one disadvantage. Then plants which cannot resist, plants which cannot resist high wind, plants which cannot resist high wind are ultimately going to fall down. So if there is too much flow of air or wind, then what will happen? That plant is going to fall down. So these were the advantages and disadvantages of irrigation. And in the next class, we are going to continue with crop protection, how the crops has to be protected. How crop is going to be protected, and what are the types, and how to control the crop, right? So how those crops has to be protected, there are various methods, that is we all use nowadays pesticides, too much of pesticides, right? So we'll see that in the next class. Now today's homework: define irrigation. Define irrigation. And then what are advantages and disadvantages of irrigation. So first thing, define irrigation. Second, what are the advantages of irrigation, and also what are the disadvantages of irrigation. Whatever the homework was given in the last class will be checked. So please do the homework regularly. And I keep saying often and often, have a habit of reading textbook. Read textbook more and more. Then you will understand and you can write on your own. Is this clear? So till next class, be safe, stay home. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.